Hey, Biff, I'm wearing shorts.
Oh, Barry, you finally learned how to dance. Mark too.
Yep, it is.
Welcome, citizens. We're here today to honor an event that happened on July 4th, 1776, and it was the beginning of the United States of America. I thank you for coming out today on this beautiful, typical July weather here in Missouri. And I think we should start with a posting of the colors by the Veterans of Foreign Wars. If you'll please stand and remove your hats, please.
Detail, 10, hut! Port, home! Forward, home! Detail, hold! House, column!
Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the singing of the Star Spangled Banner by Nicole Bell.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red and the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Port, home! About, hey! Arm, forward, home! Detail, hold! All out!
On June 7th, 1776, in the Pennsylvania State House, which we now call Independence Hall, the Continental Congress heard Richard Henry Lee of Virginia read his resolution beginning, "Resolved that these united colonies are, and of a right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved." After that, the Continental Congress recessed for 3 weeks, but they appointed a committee of 5 to draft a statement presenting to the world the colony's case for independence. The committee consisted of 5 people. 2 were from New England. One was John Adams of Massachusetts, the rebellion's firebrand. Another one was Roger Sherman of Connecticut. The middle colonies were represented by Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania and Robert R. Livingston of New York. And there was one Southerner, a young man named Thomas Jefferson. I think he was 33 years old and he was from Virginia. You may sit now. Sorry. Jefferson, this committee of 5 said to Thomas Jefferson, "Why don't you write the first draft?" And they did, and he did. And then he had Adams and Franklin kind of review it, and they just made some minor changes. On July 1st, 1776, the Colonial Congress again reconvened, and the following day, July 2nd, they adopted Richard Henry Lee's resolution for independence. By 12 of the colonies voted for it. New York did not. Immediately afterwards, the Congress began to consider the Declaration. There were some minor alterations and deletions, but the basic document remained what Thomas Jefferson had written. The process of revision continued through all of July 3rd and into the late morning of July 4th. Then at last, the church bells rang over Philadelphia. The Declaration had been officially adopted, and that's why we rang the bells today. On the morning of July 5th, copies of the Declaration were dispatched by members of Congress to the various assemblies, conventions, and committees of safety, as well as to the commanders of the Continental troops. I would like to now read you a slightly abridged version of the Declaration that the public heard during this beginning of the United States of America. This was the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States. And it begins, "When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferings of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of free people. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of the mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as a free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. The Declaration of Independence. We'd like to now have the VFW and the Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War and the St. Genevieve Colonial Militia fire a salute in honor of the Declaration of Independence.
Now, stand put. Report arms. Ready, aim, fire. Ready, aim. Ready, aim, fire. Order, arms. Ready, aim, fire.
Flintlocks do not always go off as planned. Thank you all for doing that. I'd like to now introduce Dick Reminger, the mayor of the city of St. Genevieve, for some short remarks.
Thank you and good afternoon. You know, it's funny how times have changed. Did you know on July 4th, 1776 was a Thursday? Found that out this morning and I asked Siri what it was, and she came back and said it was on a Thursday. If you were in St. Genevieve, and Bob is certainly a historian, not like myself, but I would think if you were in St. Genevieve in 1776, you would have been down on the river in the old town, 2 miles away from here, down the big field. This, where we are today, would probably been woods. You were probably out farming or looking for what you were going to eat that day. Might have been complaining about the mosquitoes, but you certainly weren't expecting somebody to come spray them. You might have been complaining about the sidewalks, or not the sidewalks, but maybe the streets and how bad a shape the streets were, but you were probably going to end up having to fix them yourself. So certainly things have changed over the years, a lot of things, and we're certainly thankful for those gentlemen for writing that and for the country that we live in today. It's obviously the best country in the world. And there are some things that haven't changed, and that document being one of them, and one that we can look to in the past and one that we can look to in the future. One that we can't forget and one that we have to hold true to our hearts. Thanks.
We also have with us here today Randy Barr, Commissioner for the county, and Gary Nelson, the presiding commissioner. So I'd like to have Gary, if he wants to say a few words.
I will say a few words. I would like to personally thank Bob Mueller for putting this stuff on. Every time we have a celebration, Bob puts a lot of time in the background, researching all of the documents, making sure everything's correct. Once again, Bob, you've done a wonderful job today. Thank you.
Dick mentioned that in 1776, we probably weren't too excited about the American Revolution. We were Spanish at the time, and so we were typically French royalist also, so we weren't too interested in revolution. We were pretty much interested in just surviving and trading with the Native Americans. One of the things that has always interested me is the Declaration of Independence, the original copy that the 52 people signed. It resides in the National Archives in Washington, D.C. I don't know how many of you know it, but the stone that surrounds that document and the Constitution came from 7 miles south of here on the River of Oz, the famous St. Genevieve marble. And while we were Spanish at the time, our citizens fought in the westernmost battle of the American Revolution. The British were going to attack St. Louis, and 60 of our colonial militia were called up to St. Louis to help protect that town. That battle occurred on May 30th, 1780, and one of the soldiers our citizen soldiers from St. Genevieve was killed in that battle. He was our first war casualty. We also, in the early days, had Father Gibol, who was a priest from across the river in Kaskaskia. And he was the one that helped convince the French to surrender to George Rogers Clark, and he served here in St. Genevieve also. And I think we really should always remember those citizens who became soldiers to protect our freedom. And I'd like to invite Neil Langen, the commander of the American Legion.
Hi, I'm Gail Langen. I'm the commander of the American Legion, and I'm also a veteran. I was asked today to come and speak about Independence Day and our veterans. And as I began to write my speech, I thought, wow, this is going to be an easy one. But then when I started to write it, no, it wasn't. After all, it's a national holiday, a family day. It's usually a bunch of picnics, hot dogs, watermelon, my favorite, and at least a 3-legged race, baseball, parades, fireworks, which I'm sure the town will be having later this evening. And a lot of family reunions come together on the 4th of July. But somewhere in my growing up, I began to realize of the meaning of the Independence Day, and that the 4th of July is actually the birth of our nation, the greatest nation on earth. It's hard to put in a short speech what this holiday means to America, as I could write a book about it, but don't worry, I didn't. For a veteran such as myself, this holiday takes a different meaning. You see that I had the privilege to serve my country in the Air Force for 26 years. My father was a World War II veteran, both of us in the Air Force. I had 2 uncles in the Air Force, and then my brother served as a civilian contractor in Iraq under fire for 2 years, diving in manholes and stuff like that. Scared me to death. My son currently is in the Army in Special Forces, and he spent 6 months in Afghanistan under fire, constant fire on the front lines. So I pray every day for his safety. Speaking of my son, he got me good. The whole time he was going through college, we talked about the Air Force, joining the Air Force. He went and joined the Army, and then he called me and said, oh, Mom, by the way, I joined the Army, and Special Forces on top of that. And I'm like, oh, my God. So when he came back from being under fire, he says, maybe I should listen to you. So anyway, through the time of my 26 years, I have lost some really good friends in battle. While I'm here today, so fortunate to be able to talk to you and share a few words about the 4th of July for you. In the United States, Independence Day is commonly known as the 4th of July. It's a federal holiday, and it's the National Day of the United States commemorating the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4, 1776, declaring the independence from the Kingdom of Great Britain. This holiday honors our great nation. This is perhaps the most celebrated family holiday other than Thanksgiving and Christmas. And it's appropriate because the 4th of July is all about families. Our nation declared its independence in order for our families to live free, not just for one generation, but all generations. I got an email from one of my friends, and it was an article about a news reporter that was stopping young people on the street and asking them what the 4th of July meant to them. I was so upset that most of them said, oh, I got the day off from work, or oh, we're out of school today. I can hang out with my friends, go to the beach, party, shoot off some fireworks, and most of all, drink beer. Not even knowing the reason we shoot off fireworks. The tradition is lost with the youth of today. They need to know why we celebrate this holiday, that the fireworks is actually the meaning that it represents a rocket's red glare during any battles that were fought to obtain our freedom. Teach your kids and your grandkids the importance of this holiday, not just the fun stuff, but the freedom stuff. A lot of Americans take their freedom and liberty for granted. It's easy to take liberty for granted when you've never lost it. We may dress up in our nation's color, red, white, and blue, but do we know the meaning behind our flag? Liberty is the right to choose. Freedom is freedom is making the right choice. They forget they have the right to choose what they want to do, the right to drive a car, to dress the way they want to, and to attend any school they decide on. That's why so many people from other countries risk getting shot at and getting caught at our borders to get into our country. We are free, and we make our decisions without being drug out of bed and being beaten for having an opinion. I know that you share your pride in being an American. Our country has been criticized for being the richest country in the world. Well, let me suggest we are the richest country in the world. We're rich in multicultural heritage, we're rich in tradition, we're rich in our spirit, our zest for the unknown, and our continued reach into the future to make life better and easier for our loved ones, unlike it was for most of you and for me even, growing up in the 50s. The American colonies became the United States of America because our determination, our self-discipline, and most of all, our dreams, our desire for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is not just a common phrase, but a day-to-day philosophy. Celebrating free expression, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the right to remain free is not but one man's, or not being somebody's slave or servant, is the greatest freedom of all. In the spirit of freedom that the 4th of July should be celebrated. Independence Day, fireworks are often accompanied by patriot songs such as the National Anthem, Star-Spangled Banner, God Bless America, America the Beautiful, My Country 'Tis of Thee, This Land is Your Land, Stars and Stripes, Yankee Doodle for you Northerners, and Dixie for us Southerners. Our soldiers are working all over the world to support the vision that became a reality over 238 years ago. They are willing to spend their holidays away from their families so that we can be with ours. I asked my son to talk to his fellow soldiers and get their opinion on what freedom means to them, so I would have a bird's eye view from soldiers currently fighting for our rights and freedom. What they told him was that it's a great personal and financial sacrifice to leave their families, their good-paying jobs at hospitals, banks, factories, and local schools because of duty calls. They sacrifice their safety and security for our safety and security. And that the soldiers remind us of what's worth fighting for. They give their mutual pledge to each other that our lives, our fortunes, and our sacrifices honor that freedom is worth fighting for, and they are proud to wear their uniforms and serve our country. This small town has soldiers serving abroad, along with other soldiers from other countries. So keep them all and all the soldiers in your daily prayers. So I hope between the ball games and the barbecues and the beer and the picnics and the fireworks that you'll take a minute out of your day to send thanks to our forefathers for their vision and to our soldiers around the world, past and present, for their dedication to our country. In closing, I would like that you take a minute to thank a veteran. Veterans are everywhere. They're in the parking lots, the grocery stores. They're standing in line with you at Walmart. They're getting out of their cars. They're everywhere. And you can spot a veteran. I see a female over there underneath the tree wearing an Air Force shirt. Thank you, ma'am, for your service. I see a Navy guy over here wearing a Navy shirt. Thank you for your service, sir. All these gentlemen that have their hats on, every one of them served to give our country the freedom. So take the time to thank a veteran. When you say thank you to them, they just light up. They're like, oh, thank you for acknowledging me. So I pledge to you today on the 4th of July to thank a veteran somewhere. Thank you.
In honor of our active duty personnel and our veterans that have been like to invite Stormy Bennett to come up and play an Armed Forces medley. Let's give a big hand for all of our active duty military personnel, the veterans, and especially their families who stood behind them. I'd like to now invite Nicole Bennett up to sing our final song.
God bless America. Please sing with me. Land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with home. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Let's give another big hand for Stormy and Nicole for all the great music today. Also one for the VFW, Sons of Union Veterans of the Civil War, and the St. Genevieve Milice for performing their honor guard duties. Mayor Grimminger, Presiding Commissioner Gary Nelson, and Gail Langen from the American Legion. Thank you. I'd like to give a special thanks to Dina Kreitler and Eric Bennett from the Chamber for when I brought this idea to them. They supported it. They helped put it together. So thank you. We are going to have some other events later today at 7:30 just across in the Valley Desert. The St. Genevieve Municipal Band will be playing many of those songs that Gail mentioned in her speech. And then at dusk up at the Pere Marquette Park, the Chamber's annual fireworks display will be going on, and will be a nice fitting conclusion to the day. So I'd invite all of you to stand now as the honor guard retires the colors, please.
Detail, hands up. Horse,
Detail,
horse.
hands up.
Horse, horse. Detail, horse. Retire colors.
Present home.
About hey. Horse, horse. Detail, horse.
Order,
Order,
order.
horse. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we hope you enjoy the rest of the 4th of July. Be safe. May you continue to live under the mantle of democracy and enjoy the freedoms that our forefathers and veterans have earned through their dedication and sacrifice. God bless you, and God bless America. Channel 7 and 98 TV and web broadcasting are made possible through contributions and donations from viewers like you. Thank you for your support.